Attention all faculty, students, staff, and other Abbott Elementarians. Class is in session and you are officially attuned in to Abbott After School. Hi! First of all, we have to pour some up for Miss Teagues, aka Janine. Now, this is a family broadcast, so I have some sparkling apple cider. This is a celebratory moment right now, or is it? Hopefully you did your homework, because we're diving right into the recap for this past week's episode. One thing that was so nice is the little bear reference. So I love the bear. It's a beautiful show, and it's also on Hulu. So I love that Hulu used that and that they wrote it in. Beautiful, beautiful TV. So to have the cafeteria workers present their meal to Mr. Johnson, him kind of give a review, love that. I thought that this concept of the dip, of Janine not feeling at her best, so there was like this supposed way that she's supposed to respond to something, and then there was her actual response, and that it was to be, oh, it's just a dip between your projects, oh, it's just this moment that you'll have. You could see when she was looking at the camera like, yep, I'm glad I figured out what that feeling was, like, haha. It's like, no, that's not what she felt. And even as they were talking about the success of her program, she was getting good feedback, and yet we see that good feedback does not equal fulfillment. And as I think about my own career, you can think about your career, friendships, relationships. It can seem good on the gram. It can seem good on LinkedIn. The pay could be good, but it doesn't always feel good here. And that gap, that's the actual dip, is when it's supposed to feel good and it doesn't. And what do we do in those moments? I think we do what we saw Janine do, which is to trust ourselves. We could write it off, but I think if she would have wrote off that feeling, it would have came back, because the true reason why she had a dip did not have to do with her program. It did not have to do with she needed another district project. It was the fact that she was not where she wanted to be. And that can be a lot to wrestle with, especially as a person of color, especially in the workplace, especially when you've reached this pinnacle that you have worked for, right? Janine has put in work to be in the spot that she found herself in, and to not have that work be attached to these positive emotions internally for herself can cause some disarray. And so that is what we see. And I thought that was an interesting thing for myself to see within the show, because it is a real thing, especially for the age group that we find Janine in. But it can happen across age, right, as we go through these different phases in life. So I love that tie-in. It was like a subtle little but it was true. Like, how do you wrestle with those differences in emotion? Gregory bringing the dirt and the gifts. Y'all know I have to get into it. I loved it. I love the intentionality. There's always intentionality with Gregory, and the fact that he was the one to bring the gifts and not Jacob, not Ava coming to the district because she needs something for Ava Fest. Gregory bringing the artifacts from Abbott to Janine was so fitting. And then for his gift to be the actual soil, it ties into him as a person, how he has the garden at the school and all those things. But then it ties to something that he directly heard from Janine. He's so attentive, and that's how you want your man to be. Y'all know I ate that right on up. Then we get to Ava Fest, and you know, I have some thoughts. I think I'll share this later, like what I hope to see as we move on. But Ava Fest had this huge like pomp and circumstance, and one thing that I do want to share in the recap is to think about how we celebrate ourselves. So you see Ava, who open house ain't even about her, right? And yet she finds a way to insert herself into the moment and to celebrate herself and to bring a piece of herself with the Connected Quest love, which I love how this show really highlights and integrates Philly natives and those who are putting on for the city, doing great things, and somebody that you could aspire to, right? Also brings that like classic sitcom feel. Like if you think about your Seinfelds, the Jamie Foxx show, Living Single, all of it, even Friends, whatever your show of choice was back in the day, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, they always had that cast member. There'd be your Kobe Bryant, there'd be your whoever popping in and they're doing a quick cameo, but it's so impactful. And then there was a live studio audience at the time, right? And so they're able to really feel the moment and celebrate. But the way that Abbott is doing it and tying it back to Philly, I think it's just so beautiful that that community continues to get this, they get to benefit off of the press of the show, off of the love of the show. And then you are giving your flowers as these showrunners to these people that they are probably sitting at home watching the show and they're seeing different Philly references and things like that, right? And so I love it. And it definitely, even for me, not from Philly at all, but to see that, it just reminds me of that old sitcom feel and that vibe. And we don't really have a lot of shows that do that anymore, especially with our Netflix drops and things like that. Love it, and I think they should keep that up for as long as possible. It is beautiful. And then we get to learn something about the culture and the vibe as well. Like, I'm learning people that are from Philly that I had no idea were from Philly. So shout out to Questlove for being in this episode. Then we have this party that was thrown for Janine, and it was in her honor. The whole point of the party was for her, and she was not trying to insert herself. She was not trying to be the center of attention. It actually was a little overwhelming for her to get there. And I thought about that. Like, what are these moments when people have tried to celebrate me and I found it difficult for me to be at the center of attention? I found it difficult for me to accept their adoration, accept their praise, accept that I'm doing well enough to be in the room, and the room was crafted with me in mind. And then what are the moments where maybe I'm taking up too much space? What are the moments where I'm inserting myself and maybe I shouldn't? Or that it's actually okay, right? Where it's like, Ava Fest is a thing because she's a principal at the school. So she is supposed to be in this space. Now, how she using the space could be questionable, but she is supposed to be there, and how she is showing up is with a forward presence. And as Black women, I think it can be hard sometimes to accept not only that you are supposed to be in the room, but that you can take up space in the room. Some rooms are crafted with you in mind. Like, they're literally thought of for you to be the center of attention. And we see with Janine, mind you, she was grappling with if she wanted to stay in the room or not. And I think it's something for us to chew on this week as we think about the show. Now, I don't know if y'all peeps, but Barbara shouted out a beautiful song. So she was talking about her church coming and doing a selection in case Questlove didn't pop up. And when she mentioned Angel by Amanda Perez, I literally was beaming because that is a hit. Like, that was my song. I sent me an angel from the heavens above. Shout out to Amanda Perez because, girl, that's a hit. Like, I love that song. Also, Mr. Superintendent, did y'all peep? There was a moment when he was asking her, like, you know, have you seen the next steps to come? And then Janine repeats the steps and he's like, okay, great. So you're familiar with our standard 7-year plan. And then he said, welcome to your future. That really hit me. Why? Because I'm in a transition right now. A lot of people are in a transition. And when you think about it, that word standard, and then 7 years, that ain't no short bid. You know what I'm saying? For you to reach the top of something, that's some time. That's a stretch of time. And so to say 7-year build and then to say welcome to your future in that robotic way, it's like, yeah, there's a standard. There's a way that I want you to go about this. There's a thing that's already mapped out for you, and that's what you are to follow. There is not a tailored way to go about this. I don't want you to add your Janine sauce to it. I want you to show up, do this thing, and then we will handle you accordingly. That's basically what that means. And in corporate, I have felt that. I have felt like there's no space for me to show up how I want to show up. There's no room for me to have any creative liberties, or not even just creative liberties and like breaking the rules, but to add more of myself to what I'm doing, to apply my learnings of life to what I'm doing, to apply the nuances of my character and my history to what I'm doing. There is a standard at times. There's a standard for creativity. There's a standard for connecting with other people. And where we can find ourselves in a dangerous position is when we go in the robotic way to get things done, what does that do? It strips you of feeling powerful. It strips you of connecting with people, and they're really connecting with the real you and not the robotic you. It strips you of actually going quicker. Maybe it's a standard 7-year plan, but once you add your thing to it, once you really show up in an expansive way that you can show up, that thing go down to 3. Okay? Like, there are shortcuts in this life that maybe don't seem like shortcuts because you're not shortchanging anything about yourself to get there, but it can bypass some of the natural order and the robotic way things are done, but people will not introduce that path to you. It kind of has to be sought out. And we see that with Janine in her role at the school district, where there was a way that she was supposed to go about things, and it's kind of like you could see her brain flashing to that and be like, now what's the fun in that? Like, would I sign up for that? And it didn't inspire her. It didn't leave any hope. It didn't give encouragement at all. And that is how we end up being trapped. They're giving out chains, right? She ain't getting no chain at Abbott. There's different resources that she had available to her. Some of us will go to places so we can get more money, but for Janine to be there, it was at the sacrifice of something else. And that something else was a piece of herself that she wouldn't have been able to not only exist in, but to expand and grow into and further develop. And I think that's a big thing to consider. Then we get to the congrats of Janine being pregnant. That had me weak. Somebody was like, Tariq. And it was like, oh, congrats. It's like, she's not pregnant. And so that was really funny. Ava Fest actually turned out to be Janine's party. And it's a party that she wasn't invited to, for real. Ava then took her badge, but it ended up being her welcome back Janine Fest party. And I think there is something really just poetic about that. So that is the homework for this week. A little recap. Let me know if there's something that I did not catch that really made you laugh or you really like leaned into with this episode. Also, I want to give a shout out to the writers, the set design, all of that. There was a point at the end where Barbara is like looking around with her camera, and she had like a phone case that was very Barbara-like to have, and there was a chain of her phone being like attached to her or whatever. That little detail is just so important to me. Gregor and Janine, how they were looking at each other, they were just little cues of how everybody was to show up, and it's just so nice to watch a show and you can see the level of detail as a viewer where I'm like, no, they're putting in work behind the scenes to make this enjoyable. So to all the people behind the scenes, not only those in front of the camera, thank you so much for making Abbott the show that it is. We love y'all and we appreciate you. Now it's time for some hot takes. Now your hot take is a hot take. It can get you in detention or you could get a hall pass. My hot take for this week is that Janine shouldn't have went back. I just said everything that I said about why she went back, why it makes sense, but I'm wondering if Janine was supposed to go back, and maybe it's the time frame that's making me a little suspicious of it. She has potential to do things outside of the teacher role, and I'm wondering if there was a way for her to negotiate, even like maybe she is a teacher and so she does end up going back, but then at the district or even at the elementary school level, like there's something she can do where that way she has a seat at the table to continue to do programming, to continue to get new resources in, and that she can be a decision maker, right? And so that way she's able to do something that even Ava wouldn't be able to do because of the seat that she has due to her fellowship. Overall, I'm wondering, and maybe this is a bit more about me than Janine, there are times when we are afraid of challenge and we are afraid of pushing ourselves. We're not sure if we can do it. It seems easier because of the time and the equity that we've built in for the past version of ourselves to just go and sit there and you feel like that's where you're supposed to be and not push forward to the next. And while I do think, as we will continue to see, she is Miss Teague, so she's supposed to be in the classroom, I do wonder if we think that because that's all we've seen, that's all we know. When you think about people who have been in abusive situations or whatever, it seems normal when you're in a dysfunctional space if all you know is dysfunction. It takes you exiting that realm to see that there's a definition of health that you have not experienced yet. And so I think there's a Janine that exists that we will not be able to see while she's at Abbott. We got a glimpse of where she could go, and sure, there was some discomfort, and of course she would have to get used to new things, new process, new paperwork, and it's her day-to-day life was going to change. And yet I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. That's where I am. She could always have gone back to teaching. I don't know if the time frame, if we had enough time for her to do things. And of course, as the show is written, Janine is Miss Abbott, like she's supposed to be there. It makes me wonder. So my hot take is Janine was not supposed to go back to Abbott. She was there. I called it last Abbott After School episode. You can go see it right now. I said she was gonna go back, and I didn't think we were gonna make it the end of this season with her being at the school district. In the next episode, she's out of there. So I saw it coming, but I don't know, y'all. I wanted my girl to expand, grow her wings a little bit and fly. Let me know if y'all agree. If so, I'll get a hall pass. If not, y'all gonna have to send me to detention, but that's my hot take. So for this week's Ask Janine session, I actually would want to ask Janine, what do you think will be different now that you're back at Abbott? You've had this experience at the school district. You have been able to have a successful program that positively impacted your students, but then can hopefully be replicated for other schools. So now that you're back and going into this role, how do you feel that you will change as a professional being back in this role after your stint away? What do y'all think Janine would say? Obviously, I ain't interviewing the cast yet, but I wonder what she would say will be different, because things do stick with us. Even if we go back to a space, we have learnings and we have changed and shifted, right? And so I wonder how she's going to show up differently. And maybe the answer will come as the season progresses, but I'm wondering how she would even approach her students differently, the other teachers differently, parent-teacher conference, right? Like there's just these things that she could learn from the district. And then now she has some allies at the district who love her as well. So I wonder if she'll move a little different after having her fellowship. Now it's time for everybody to cast your votes. Who is your star pupil for this week's episode? This is a tough one. I actually am not sure who the star pupil is. My star pupil would have to be, I think it's Melissa. Melissa came through. I feel like she was non-combative. Everybody was like, Ava is not gonna come through. And initially she waved her off. She was like, let's just keep focused, right? And so she was like rallying the troops together. Barbara's getting frustrated. Jacob's overwhelmed. He was asked to do stuff that he's like, I don't want this falling on me. Even Gregory was like, I don't know, but everybody didn't really have like a plan of action. It's just like, Ava's lying and what are we gonna do about it? Where Melissa's like, hey, I will roll up my sleeves and get in the gym and do what I have to do to save Ava Fest. And while her impersonations were questionable, she took one for the team and pulled it up. I think that Melissa is my star pupil. And when it was time for Janine to come back, she was excited and she gave her some affirmation. When Questlove actually came, she asked a question, but she didn't throw a dig at Ava. And so I think Melissa was in rare form this episode, and I love to see it. So Melissa, you're the star pupil of this week's Abbott After School. Round of applause. I have an unreasonable request. So I'm gonna go to the principal's office. My unreasonable request. I would like to see Gregory no longer at Abbott. That's it. You shoot me. But I think there's something brewing there. Gregory made a statement. I'm glad that Janine is Janine helped me see that Abbott where I'm supposed to be. So I'm glad that she's found where she's supposed to be. But then we see that Janine does not end up staying where Gregory thought she was supposed to be, right? That's not what happened. He get this program approved. We just saw Janine get a program approved. He wanted to be a principal. He has made peace with the fact that he's at Abbott, but he's doing impact in these ways that nobody else is doing with his students. His students saw him as the cool teacher. He goes above and beyond with the students, went to go check in on that student that wasn't showing up. He got parents texting him. There's something with Gregory, and then he did the panel right? There are these like extracurriculars that we see Gregory tapping into, and he's growing in his understanding of what a teacher's supposed to do. He's growing in how he supports and shows up for his students, and then he's going beyond his role and doing something that I think eventually is gonna tie him to the school district, which we just got a glimpse of. But him and Janine, even though I just drew all them parallels, Janine did not stay at the district. And Gregory's initial thing was that he did not want to be in a school. So I think, my unreasonable request, I kind of like the shakeup of us seeing somebody outside of the school day to day. There was something nice about it. And I think that we need more moments like that, especially as Abbott exposes us to different ideas about the school system, how it impacts parents, how it impacts students, how it impacts the neighborhoods around them. We saw that with the charter school episode. I think there's more that could be done if one of the characters was not at the school. I don't know. Again, I think it would be tough to keep the romance going that I want to see between Janine and Gregory up. I think it would be tough with the balance of what's going on. He's our only young black male lead. We have Mr. Johnson, of course, and so they might have to introduce a new character. How's that gonna go? So I'm disrupting a lot here with this request, but that's my request, is I would like to see Gregory not be at the schools. And I don't think everybody's potential can be capped at Abbott. I don't think how we're building these characters that is true for everybody. So if I had to pick a person, Gregory, you gotta graduate. So that's what I see. Let me know if y'all vibe with it, but if not, too bad. Now it's time for our Abbott After School games. You are the executive planner for Ava Fest. Who is your celebrity guest? You only get one. And I guess if it's a group, you get a group. You get one phone call and the person will pull up. Who would you have that person be? And they gotta be a hit. You got the parents who's all jazzing into it. You got the students who's looking forward to a little fun. Who are you calling? For me, who would I call? Okay, low key, I wanted to say Usher, because even if the kids don't know the songs, he could dance around or whatever, and I think he would be theatrical. But it's like, what he gonna sing nice and slow? You know? So I take Usher back. Dang, I wanna say Brandy, because they might recognize her from Cinderella, but I don't think that's gonna work. I'm trying to appeal to the adults, but also the kids. It's kind of tough. Maybe y'all have a better answer than me. Let me know who you would have as your celebrity guest for Ava Fest. Now I'm like, should I go the actor route instead of an artist? I wanted an artist. Final answer, I'll say Brandy, just so I can have an answer. Dang. Let me know who y'all think. That was hard. Any predictions for next episode or something that you think will happen before the end of this season? We have, I believe, 4 or 5 episodes left. So there's a little bit of room for things to happen, right? I thought we would have had at least 2-3 more episodes before Janine left the district, and that happened like that. So there is movement that could take place. What do you think will happen before the end of this season? I think that there'll be some type of challenge that comes, and everybody needs to rally together, and it will try to make us feel like Janine made the wrong decision, or some jealousy between her and Gregory, because maybe he'll start to get some attention from people at the district or something like that because of his new program. So one of those things I think will take place. Janine was like, I might get some heat because she left, so that could be a thing which would present the challenge. Or it's kind of smooth sailing for a little while, but it's too smooth for Gregory and everybody's loving his program, and that will cause some turmoil. Or Gregory is experiencing a challenge with the district and he goes to Janine for advice because it was so smooth for her, and that's what brings our romance fire back. Maybe that's it. And y'all know I need them to give me something before this season is up. Give me a little something. I don't need a kiss, I don't need a make out session, but I need something. Okay, this slow burn is slow. It's good, but it's slow. Give me something. They keep my hope alive for myself, okay? And you know, Ava is reminding me of Kelly from Insecure. I think that is good in a way because she is providing a dynamic role for the castmates that we have, and she provides comedic relief. However, I think that a flaw of Insecure is that they waited until the nick of freaking time, and I'm talking the last second, before I think they added enough depth to Kelly. And they tried to add some, but then we didn't have enough of the build to understand why she was making the decisions she was making. And as a viewer, it was hard for me to feel happy for her, or if I wasn't happy, it was hard for me to feel anything about the decisions that she made at the end of the series, because you didn't make me feel like I needed to care about the decisions she was making. And she wasn't making many before. And then when she did, then it went off. My fear with Ava, or what I don't want to see continue to happen too much, is that there's a lack of depth. It's like she has this one-off story, like she was dating Iguodala, then she was dating AI, right? She has this best friend Questlove. It's like these random little things, but they don't build. Where with Barbara, we get to see different things, like even with her church, right? And like her being a believer is a through line throughout. Even her card to Janine this episode, it was blessings Barbara, right? So there's this little line that you continue to see throughout. With Miss Shamanti, you see the same thing. With Melissa, with Jacob, like everybody, there is a through line. And then when we get to Ava, the through line is that she's jokes, that she don't care. But then she does make decisions at times that are the opposite of that, where she does care, where she does step in and do something kind, where she's like reaching beyond the Ava that has been built up. And I think as that continues to happen, I need to be able to feel like I understand where Ava's thought process is coming from, and I need to care. Like I care about what Gregory does. I care about when Jacob was breaking up with his boyfriend. I care about Janine and Tariq's storyline, like the fact that he's still popping up at the school. I care about these things, and we need to care about Ava in some form or fashion. We could pick if it's her career, if it is her personal life, if it is something internal. They can let me know, but I need you to pull me in with that character, and do not wait until 3 episodes before the series finale in order for me to do so. That's my little pop it in. I need that to happen. And then I kind of want to leave us with some takeaways from today's lesson. First, don't be afraid to try. I think that was super important, and we saw it with Janine. At the end of the day, my girl tried. She got an offer to do something. We were wondering if she was gonna do it. Her co-workers was wondering if she was gonna do it, and yet she did. Do not be afraid to try. It is still the beginning of this year. There's still time. There are still things that you have an interest about or you're intrigued of, and you don't know how it's gonna shape out. That's okay. Do not be afraid to try though. Go forward for that thing. And this is even me speaking to me. Next lesson, you can make impact and still walk away. Do you know that you can impact a friend? You could teach them something. Y'all could have gone through something. And yet at this stage in your life, y'all aren't supposed to be friends and you could walk away. Do you know that you could be, maybe you've been on your job for a while and you've made impact, and you feel that it will be betrayal to leave now, or that it's not fair to everybody else that you will leave and they can't, right? That survivor's remorse that we have. And yet, what we saw here, you can make impact. Janine's program was successful, and she still chunked up the deuces, right? She still followed her trust in herself. She still went where she felt was best for her to go. You can make impact and still walk away. And lastly, trust yourself. There are things that we know, there are things that everybody else might not get off the bat, but for us, we see it. And I want to say it is important, and it is okay to trust yourself. Well, class, you are dismissed. That's all we have today on Abbott After School. I hope that you have fun, learned a little bit about yourself, and a bit more about the world around you. We'll be here same time, same place after the next Abbott Elementary episode. You can catch us right here. Love y'all. Later.